Hello there, my name is Fu Chuan. Today I would like to give a presentation on the 3-cylinder steam engine that I've been working on for this mechanical module. For this presentation, I will talk about the details about the making process of this engine and the problem that I encountered along the way and how did I resolve it. Okay, this engine consists of 20 parts, which come to a total of 31 pieces needs to be made. And for the objective of this practical project, we are going to build a 3-cylinder engine. The engine must be able to run at least 1 minute with an inlet pressure of 2 bar or 30 psi. We also need to design and calculate a compressor tank for which to supply the pressurized air into the engine. Okay, from here I'm going to start talking about how did I make the parts. Okay, start out first, I'm going to say I start from making the base. For the base, we still need to mill out the dimension that I have written here. The height is 28.57 millimeters, the length 1104 millimeters, and the depth of 100 millimeters. And we also need to mill out this part. We need to mill out the height, which is 12.7, and with a length of 25.4 along across this area. This is where the manifold gonna sit on. So onto this part, we're gonna drill 3 holes with 5 millimeters bits and tap it with 6. For these 2 holes, it is gonna to attach onto with the engine mount, and this hole is going to attach with the manifold. Yeah, for this second part, it is about the cylinder. First of all, we use a lathe machine to do what they call phasing off, to shorten the length of the cylinder and also make it even for us to like start drilling the holes and making the bore out from this cylinder. So for the center part here, we're gonna drill out with a 12.5 bit, and then we will rim it with 13. So this is where the piston is going to sit in. And afterwards, we need to drill 3 holes on the top and 1 hole on the bottom. All holes are drilled using a 2.5 mil bit, and we tap it with 3. For the top 3 holes, this 3 hole is gonna be attached with the cylinder cover. And as for the bottom hole, this is gonna be attached onto the crankcase. And then afterwards, we need to mill off this surface. We need to take off 3.1 mil from the radius of the cylinder. And then after we mill that, we need to drill this 3 mil hole on the side of the cylinder. This is where the steam pot, the valve is gonna supply the air going into the cylinder, and with a dimple. This dimple is for the valve pivot screw, like to hold the valve mount. Okay, during making this part, there's one problem with it, which is when I drill this cylinder, the drill bit broke inside the hole, and the solution to it is I just file it off, like make it smooth, and then I just drill a new hole right beside it, so that I still manage to attach the cylinder cover without making the new cylinder. Okay, for this part, talk about the crankcase cover. So first of all, by using a lathe machine, we phase off the back of the cover and the front one, and then we reduce overall thickness to around 9.5 mil, and then we take off another 1.6 around this lip. This is where the whole crankcase cover will be gonna attach with the crankcase. And then we need to bore out the center with a 12.5 mil drill bit, and then this is where the main bearing gonna sit, so we cannot drill it like too big. Like the main bearing is gonna be like press fit, like quite tight. So yeah, 12.5 it is. And we need to drill 3 mil hole for the screw to attach onto the crankcase. Yes. As for the issue for this part, one of the mounting hole, this one, it is cracked, because I think is when I try to use the pillar drill to drill it inside, and then the drill bit like went sideways, or I might be just like drill it a bit too near to the edge, so it caused it to like almost crack, but there's no issue when assembling it. And as you can see here, I also make a thread for this face of the crankcase cover. This is because when I try to attach the mounting screw on the crankcase, and then the screw could not screw in. So the first thing I do is I try to make a thread and then let the screw in. But end of the day, I found out actually I can just cut the screw like shorter, and then I won't need to do this thread, and then the screw can be fit like perfectly. But yeah, I already done it, so yeah, there's no issue with the fitting. And as for this part, this is the crankcase. First of all, I use a lathe machine to skim down the thickness to around 8 mil, and then bore out the center using a 31.7 drill bit. This is where the crankcase, the crankcase cover gonna sit in, so the whole area 31.7. And then I need to drill 2mm hole. This is also for the crankcase, as you can see here. This 3 is gonna fit onto this hole, and then tap it with 3mm. And onto the bottom part. The bottom part, I need to drill 2mm hole and then tap it with 4. This 2 hole is gonna to be attached onto the engine mount. Okay, the next part is the crank disc. As for the crank disc, it's quite a simple component. I just use a lathe machine. I face down the thickness to around 6.4 and bore out the center to 5mm and then rim it to 6, because this hole is we're gonna attach the crankshaft onto it, and then drill a 3mm hole away, like 9.5 away from the center, around here, starting from here to here. This is where we're gonna attach the crank pin onto it. Okay, for the next part, cylinder covers. So there's 3 cylinders, so I'm gonna make 3 of them. And the first thing, again, using the lathe machine, face down the surface to around like 8mm, the whole thickness 8mm. And then after that, we face down 1.5 around the edge, like from here and onto the edge here, 1.5 and 3.8 on the opposite side, like on the bottom part. And we leave around 12.7 at the center. This is where the cylinder like gonna plug into the cylinder. So after that, we're gonna drill 3mm hole on each. This is to attach the screw onto the cylinder. So no issue with this part. Okay, for this part, we are making, this is the crankshaft that I make, and then it's very straightforward. I just use a lathe and just reduce the length to around 47.6mm, and yeah, that's all for this part. Okay, for this engine mount, before that I was using a hacksaw to saw the engine mount, because this is the part when I was first started, I have no confidence using the mill machine, so I was using a hacksaw, which took quite some time to cut it. But still, after I learned to use it, it's quite simple to use the mill machine actually. And then yeah, so using the mill machine, I mill off the height like 31.7 from here to here. The depth is 40.28, which is front of this lip until the end. This 41.28, and the front lip is around 9.5, this length here. And we need to drill 2 holes on this top, 2 5mm hole. This is the hole for the bolt to attach the crankcase, and we need to drill 2 more holes on the bottom. This is to attach onto the base. Okay, issue with this part. Okay, as you can see here, there's like one chip, I would say like rub or crack, something like that. Because yeah, when I was trying to mill out this bottom part, and then I just missed it, and then the splinter like rub come in contact with this piece, and then it causes the dent here. But overall, no fitting issues, like just a small issues. And for this bottom part, there's 2 holes, which is not aligning with the base. So I need to like trim, like make a hole like vertical, like straight a bit, in order to like slide in and like make it fit with the base. Okay, for this part, I will be talking about the main bearing. The main bearing, like, is quite simple actually, because I just face off the sides. I face off and then reduce the overall diameter to around 12.6 to be fit on the the crankcase cover. Yeah, crankcase cover. This main bearing, I face off the sides to around 12.6 to fit on this crankcase cover, and then I part off using the parting tool on the lathe, and then part it off with a length of 14mm, like this length, and then I drill out the center to like 6mm. This is where the crankshaft gonna be sliding. The remaking for this part is quite, although I would say it's quite simple, but this is not, because I failed like 3 times to try to do this part, because the pieces that was originally given to us is like a bit too short, and then the lathe machine does not hold it properly, and then every time I try to part it off, it just slip off and damaging the pieces. But yeah, at least I get it done. And onto the next one is the flywheel. This flywheel, first of all, we use the lathe machine again, and we reduce the whole overall thickness of the flywheel, but we leave this part protrude. And then because we change out the cutting knife, the cutting tool, we take off the material bit by bit around this, like just a bit, and then also we take out this, but we leave this center part, and then this center is around 6mm. We drill 6mm for the crankshaft to slide in. Drill it with 5 and rim it with 6. Yeah. And I also added 2 grub screw for the crankshaft to hold in place. So yeah, two 2mm drill and then tap it with 3 because the grub screw is 3mm thick. Okay, for this manifold, first of all, drill a 6mm into the center. Like this is gonna be attached on the base, and drill another 9mm hole, and then tap it with 10. Tap it with 10, and then try to screw in the nuts, the tubes, the tube holder nuts. And for the connecting rods, initially I was thinking to like cut it, but then that will be taking too much time, and especially with this type of small component to be working, using a hacksaw to cut it is like not efficient. It's like too small to work on. So I just use a grinder and then grind off the edges and then shape it as a original design. Try to make it as original, and then afterwards I drew out 2 holes, one 5mm onto the crank pin, and then 3mm for the wrist pin and to connect with the piston. For the crank pin, this part, okay, this end, by using a lathe machine, we face off the whole length of the crank pin, and then we leave this diameter to be around 5mm, and this part is 3mm, because this part is going to be attached onto the crank disc, and this is the part where this connecting rod to be attached, like to be slide on this part, and this part is on the crank disc. So okay, for this piston, sadly I didn't manage to finish it because I still need to drill the pin a hole for the wrist pin. Yeah, as written here. So I still need to drill it, but yeah, because of the time, I didn't manage to finish it. And by using a mill, also do note the cutting tool of the mill need to be changed. Like change it to 3mm, and then to cut the mill off the top and the bottom as well. We mill down to around 11.1 mil the height, and then using the same 3mm cutting tool, we cut out a slot using the cutting tool. Just slide it across, and then this is where the connecting rod to be slide in, and then with the hole, if let's say we have drilled another hole, that this is where the wrist pin gonna go in, and then yeah, I didn't even finish it in time. So if I do, yeah, supposedly the wrist pin will be going here and then with the connecting rod. For this part, the valve mount. Okay, first of all, I use the lathe machine to reduce down the overall thickness of it, and then I drew a hole with a 2.5mm bit and tap it with 3. So this is where the valve mount pivot, the pivot screw is going to screw on, and then it is going to attach with the cylinder, like go through in the dimple and then attach it. And for this valve, I use a hacksaw to cut it, which is not ideal because it took me quite some time to do it, but still, cut along like the shape, and then leave like 2 legs across this part. And also the valve block, the block are drilled with 9mm and then tap it with 10 in order to screw in this valve, the tube mount nut. And I also drill this 3mm hole for the valve in order to like attach it onto the pivot screw, the pivot mount, which is this one. And as followed with the original drawing, the leg are bent as like from here and there, like following the original drawing. Okay, and onto the back behind of the valve block, I drew out 2 holes, and then supposedly it should be joining into one that I was planning to because I didn't manage to finish the engine. So yeah, this is the testing 2 holes on the back of the valve mount. And yeah, issue with the valve also like blocking me like try to assembly this part of the engine is when I try to mount the crank pin was unable to like slide into, like go in straight into with the crank disc. That's because this leg is not deep enough. It's like not cut deep enough. So some correction need to be made here, like some trim. I need to trim the leg a bit more deeper in order to have all 3 of the valve to be able to slide in with the crank pin. Okay, this is where I start assembling the engine. Okay, as you can see, all 3 bolts, like the cylinder cover, mount on the cylinder, which is nice, like all fit or are in place, like without any play of it. And this is where I mount the cylinder, the valve mount with the valve pivot screw in, also like snug in, no problem there. And then this is where I attach the cylinder onto the crankcase. As you can see here, there's one paper, because For screwing in the cylinder, the number 3, I think you can see it here, number 3 cylinder and number 2 cylinder, like snug. Like the grub screw does its job, it's snug in with the correct position. But as for the cylinder number 1, when I try to like even tighten the grub screw or loosen it, it's not facing the right direction. So I use paper to jam it to like face it into the correct direction. And okay, this is the crankcase and the crankcase cover. As you can see, all the nuts and bolts are in place. The crankshaft and with the flywheel and the crank disc all mounted together, as you can see. And yeah, this is where everything put on to the base. As you can see, the manifold is screwed in, the valve, the engine mount are in onto the base, and the crankcase are attached with the screws with the crankcase. And this is the behind of the wheel, behind of the engine, and the front. Yeah, again, that is the part where I try to fit the crank disc, the crank pin onto the crank disc, which failed because I still need to trim out this. But yeah, overall, although I didn't manage to finish the engine in time. But yeah, this is a very good learning experience for me. And yeah, that's all, I guess. Yeah, okay, thank you.